the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First deal, we need to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one will be guest presentation. You got Lori?
Well,
Okay.
oh, you know what? Actually,
Patron input, sorry.
yeah. So when we get to patron input,
Sorry.
Guest presentation.
Sit down.
Matt Fletcher was going to present tonight, but then we realized on Monday that he's at a game right now. So I'm going to just talk about his senior project a little bit. He gave me all of this stuff, but he is doing his senior project around student participation in sports is kind of the theme, and community support and so forth. Hi, Don. And so,
I had to go on my, I don't know what's with my laptop.
oh well, you're with us now.
But I'm there.
We're just doing the guest presentation right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to pass around some pictures, but what he's doing is he's doing a memorial wall on the crow's nest out at the football field, and he's cutting out jerseys with names and numbers for former football players who passed away to mount on the back of the crow's nest. So that's what they're going to look like, and he's already been working with. He's went to a couple places, but Gateway is where he's having some work done. And our Clearwater grant that we get almost every year, last year we elected to put that grant towards senior projects because inevitably there's funds that get needed for projects, and so we're going to use some of that money for this project. And then he's going to have it powder coated after everything is cut out, and he's found somebody to do that that'll do it at no cost. And so I think it'll be nice. And it's just a big open wall on the back of that crow's nest. So that is the project that he is working on.
Is he going to have like a plaque or something, say something, or explaining it or something?
Yeah, I think, honestly, we haven't worked out those details. But, yeah, something like that, yeah. Are there any questions about that?
What kind of time frame on that?
Any day. Like, I told him he could go ahead and just get going with it right now. He just needs to come talk to us in the office. No. And we just need to call him and pay for it. They have everything ready. They've got the file for the cutouts and everything, so we're ready to go. Other questions? Okay.
That's it. All right, so the next one would be to action item to approve the consent agenda, do the minutes from the November 2020 regular meeting, as also the bill payments. So maybe we could get some look over the bills real quick. So what's the flame retardant pad with graphics for $31.91 at Kendrick High School?
That's the new pads in the gym. At
Oh.
the end of each basket.
What is it?
It's the new pads in the gym underneath each basket.
Oh, it's on the wall.
Got it, got it.
Yeah.
$20,512 Chromebooks. How many Chromebooks is that?
Yeah?
Dan?
I believe that's 85.
Oh, 80, wasn't it? It was 85. Okay.
That's what,
But that's also covered with our CARES grant. Right. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Bills, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now patron input. Now Lori. Good to go, yeah.
So Amy passed out the letter that I had written up, kind of highlighting my concerns, and I believe all of you, I planned on reading it, but I think you guys already read it. So I just wanted to express, and for those who are on Zoom, they've been emailed in case you didn't get that. I think the mask debate is a huge debate, and I really know that that's not something that we can resolve. But my emphasis is for those of us who believe that there's more risk to wearing the mask than there is not, especially for our young kids who pose less of a risk in regard to coronavirus. I feel like it's overstepping, and I know it's me against the whole world. I feel like it's overstepping telling individual families to make that choice. And I don't want anyone telling my child to cover her face, especially when she's in PE wearing. She kept trying to pull it below her nose, and she kept repeatedly being told to pull it above her nose while she was running. And that is unacceptable in my opinion. And I think clean, fresh air and exposure to viruses, personally, my opinion of the immune system is what we need. That's what builds our immune system, and good, clean hygiene and washing hands and all those kind of things are important. But just covering the face is not an option for my family, as much as I respect others that agree with that. So I'm hoping, and I emphasize in one of my paragraphs, is when will this ever end? Because it could be a very long time that we battle coronavirus. And so I just don't think it's realistic or practical to shut down. You know, like I said, I'm a very small voice, and I'm talking about Kendrick High School, and the world is battling this right now. But, you know, when will it end? You know, it's a risk to drive a car or ride a bicycle, you know, but we take those risks every day. So I'm just begging you to kind of consider, and I thank you for this time and opportunity to voice my opinion. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and I feel we held out as long as we thought we could.
I know.
I mean, we're some of us, we know we're not real mass people as well or whatever, but just with the exposure that we had going around at the time, you know, with the going on, we thought it was the safest thing to do is somebody who was exposed and you got to send half the class home. That's just not an efficient way to try to teach the kids or whatever.
Now, when I talked to the health department, because when this first happened, I thought, I'm gonna call the health department and ask them, what do you suggest I do? You know, to get an opinion, and he kept emphasizing, we're not telling anybody they have to shut down. He repeated himself multiple times. He said, that's a personal choice. So I don't know if you guys are just afraid of risks of being sued because somebody got the virus and you weren't wearing masks or what, but according to the health department, there is no reason that you have to send all of those people home. I asked him several times to clarify, and I visited with Mark about that. Did you call?
No. I didn't.
No, okay. Yeah. He said that it's recommended from the CDC, but nobody is mandating anything. It's definitely our decision as to how we handle this.
Yeah.
And I just feel strongly that if families feel safer wearing a mask, they should be able to do that. And families that feel safer not wearing a mask should have that right. That's just my strong opinion.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, because I don't like doing this, you guys. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but I don't like doing
I
it.
do think too, one option that we made available through the office and that is certainly viable is the face shield. So if somebody doesn't want to wear a mask because it's restrictive of
I know, because of
airflow,
airflow.
then that's
Yeah.
a very easy fix and something that would still protect that student.
Except
plus
that you
protect-
don't see real clearly. I tried the face shield myself, and it was it's just not clear.
Yeah. So there are other face shields, and maybe you need to look. I went somewhere the other day, and the whole staff was wearing a face shield that was below, so it was nose and mouth, and nothing over the eye. And I don't know if that, I imagine, would be acceptable, but, you know, I think so that was when we went to get Morgan's driver's license. That's what the whole staff was wearing. Mhm. So theirs was just shield from chin up, and it just covered the nose and mouth.
Right.
But the same concept, so there was airflow and a little more comfortable maybe for them. So that's certainly an option.
It's not about comfort for me. It's about the air. It's about oxygen. It's about rebreathing. Yeah, it's awful. And you know, some of the literature I read when I was that if you do contract the virus and you have a mask on, then you're rebreathing that virus, and it's emphasizing more and more in your cells. So when you're in that incubation period, before symptoms appear, you're putting yourself at more risk if you have been exposed, if you're wearing that mask. I mean, there was so much information when I was reading that I didn't really want to bombard. You know, I tried to simplify it as much as I could, but there's a lot of interesting things about, you know. And, you know, the thing about the mask there, I'm just thinking the difference. It's still getting out when you're wearing the shield. But it is something to be considered.
And I think, that, you know, I kind of second what Chad said. We're just trying to make the best decision for the school as a whole and doing our best to keep the school open and keep
But
kids
when you're
in.
talking about the autistic kids, the sensory sensitive kids, I'm looking at mental illness in a serious way here. This is not socially good for our kids.
But staying at home and being in
teachers that are trying to instruct with a mask on. I mean, these are real issues that are not positive. Staying at home is not unhealthy for Callie at all. I mean, she's getting plenty of social interaction and opportunities to work and do her schoolwork and all of that kind of stuff too. So, yeah, good. Anyhow. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
You guys have a good night.
You too. Okay, the next agenda item would be the informational items, and we'll start with the financial report. Kim.
Okay, so we've got a couple of CARES funds that are up December 30th, and we have all that money spent, so I'll be requesting it. So we're going to be getting a pretty good chunk of change here soon. And then we've gotten our title monies in, so I can start requesting that as well. And I have a big chunk of change coming from the child nutrition as well. So good figure right there at the moment. So. Anything else? We still have CARES funds that we can spend throughout certain dates, but we have a couple of them that we have to spend by the end of the year.
And those that are spent.
And they're spent, yep. Yep, there's a couple thousand left on one of them, and Dan's just finishing that up today, so.
It's nice that we saw as much come in as we did.
Yeah.
What's the money that's covering the lunch? Is that federal? What's that? Is that part of the CARES too?
It's the child nutrition program
Okay.
that's sending us that money.
That reimbursement?
Yeah.
And is that covering all of the expense for food, or do we have any?
You know, in looking at what I just requested not too long ago, it's gonna pretty much cover that negative that's in there right now. And I think with the other money that I have coming, we're gonna be in the positive again there, so.
Which has been a long time
Yeah.
since we've seen that.
Yeah.
Great.
As far as the bus, is that,
Oh, the bus, I got the invoice the other day, so that has been paid. I sent the check off the other day, and as far as I know, I think it should be delivered next month.
anybody else, any questions for Kim on the financials? If not, I guess we'll go to the JES Principal Report. Dory?
Technology.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. Sorry, Dory, I'm out of sorts. You're not up yet, Dan's up. Sorry about that.
All right, so I'm going to get through this as quick as I can. You will notice for the board members which are in attendance, you had a backpack sitting in your seat when you arrived. That is now your Chromebook. Between the CARES Act money and the blended learning grant and another fund source we got from the State Board of Education, we were able to backfill for all students, staff, and now board members. So I want to remind everybody that it's business practice that any correspondence, communication, anything that you do on behalf of the school district needs to be done through your school email account. I'm just reiterating what the Idaho School Boards Association has put out. So this device is going to do a couple things for you. One is it's going to allow you to, if we have meetings that somebody has to be remote, or in Don's position right now where he's at home, he could have used his Chromebook to log in and jump in and do this. The other thing is that that's also your source for email if you want to use that as well. So we've got those out to everybody. Some of the other devices that we ordered in September, they are starting to finally trickle in. So we're getting those out to the teachers and we're setting up training for most of it. I've been working closely with Kim. We've expended almost all the money for the blended learning grant as it's come in. So we backfilled a lot of things that we needed and expanded on some things to make it easier to do some distance delivery for our content should we need that to happen. The camera for the NFHS, I don't remember, Steve, what's the acronym for?
National Federation of High Schools.
Yeah, so the Pixel camera was installed last week in the gym, and the one is in the football field. We're still waiting on some equipment to link the football field back to the building, so that one's not completed, but it's also not present at this time. And in keeping with that, I've been working very closely with Mrs. Gertchie because we're trying to came up with a method of delivering the Christmas concert at both buildings this year. So there will be a notice, I think, going out tomorrow from the high school and tomorrow also from the elementary, where we will be live streaming the Christmas concerts. Tomorrow will be at 7 p.m. for the high school, and on Friday at 10 a.m. for the elementary. So those will be available through the holiday season for people to watch after the live stream has happened. We'll take them down probably in January-ish sometime. So that's all I've got right now. Do you have any questions?
I got a question, Dan. So on that pick slot system in the gym, what would it take if we had some people that wanted to announce the games, because it's hard to follow what's going along when you're trying to watch it at home?
You're going to talk to Morgan about that, because literally I was just part of the guys who helped nail it to the wall.
Okay.
So I have no idea about any of the rest of it. He's actually in charge of the operation of that piece of equipment.
And I agree with you, Chad, and maybe we can talk to you about it, Steve. It really it makes the game a whole different level of game when you're watching from home. And especially if you have people watching that only know one kid, it's nice for them to hear. You know, Dory, I'll say that our two daughters look the same out there, and I can't tell them apart.
So I asked Morgan about that as well. And he said that the system that runs it in Dan's room, they have to hook the mic up to that. So you couldn't be in the gym too.
You'd have to be in Dan's room to broadcast it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure, you know, you can really hear the game though. You hear the ball dribbling and stuff. I'm not sure if there just wasn't a live announcer like you would with fans. And I suppose now that we have fans, are we going to have somebody do an announcement?
Well, we never have.
We never have.
No.
So, I mean, if it's something where we have somebody, we could test it with just them being in the gym and announcing like a regular game and seeing if it doesn't get picked up by the.
I think you need a line in to the. I think you need a line in, Dan, to the like the CPU there.
Well, we could always set up a broadcast booth in here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it actually takes, and I don't know, we could brainstorm on that though.
Yeah, that's the bad part. If you try to broadcast and I mean, it's tough when you're watching on TV, try to figure out what's going on. So is that really going to help?
Yeah, we'd have to figure out a way to have that connected to the person in the gym.
Yeah.
Now, I will say there was a guy who did it. What game was it? Timberline. Oh, and he was entertaining. I don't know who all watched it, but it was. You felt like you were watching ESPN. I mean, he was. I don't know if we need to. Probably don't have anybody who's got that skill set, but it made the whole game really enjoyable.
I got a couple people.
You got it. Would it be Shane Taylor?
Hey, Joey, that was on Facebook Live as well.
Yes.
So that was direct to Facebook.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, Dory, now you're up.
Thanks. Our enrollment is still at 134. You have ICU results in front of you. We have November and December. And just a little bit, take a little bit of a dive with 3 classes, and partly probably it was Thanksgiving break, we came back and we tested. But nonetheless, in 4 different classes we came up, so that's great. Remember the red, we want to diminish that, and that should be 5 to 10%. Looking pretty good. Remember, we're doing a reading school-wide goal, and so we're just trying to push that reading and trying to get those kids that struggle intervene. I want to thank Dan very much he really put a ton of time into the virtual Christmas concert for us, so I want to really thank him. Parents are going to be super excited to watch 10 a.m. on Friday morning. So if you are available, that'd be fun for you to get to log in and see it as well, right, Dan? And outsiders?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I am proud to announce that Andy Twight, she was selected as one of the 3 finalists in the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science. And she's just proven that herself to be an exemplary math teacher. She's going to represent Idaho at the national level if she's selected. And she will be honored in Washington, D.C. and receive $10,000. She was given a bouquet of flowers from the state, and because of the COVID time, right now they're not doing anything publicly, but as soon as that, so what she has to do is she just has to clean up a few, she had to apply. She was nominated by Ryan Dent, he's our math guy, and so anyway, she's put some hard work into that application and really proud. She's, again, there are 3 finalists and 14 applied. So, very cool. That is it. That's all I have for JES. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Dory. The next one would be the superintendent and the principal report for the high school.
Okay, so at the high school, enrollment is at 117 right now. I put the classes over there on the right. As you can see, the bulk of our students, well, not the bulk, but a lot of our students are at the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade level. I think if we do, hey Dory, do you know how many kids are in the 6th grade right now?
I do. We have 15.
15?
16.
16, oh, okay. Well, I was thinking that there was going to be maybe a 2-year period down the road where we're Division I based on current numbers. But that makes me second guess it, so I'm not totally sure. But Morgan and Rod were saying that it looks like we could have a 2-year period where we're Division I based on current numbers. We'll see though, I guess.
You have to be at that level for 2 years before they bump you up. There's
like an evaluation year and then where they implement it. So you're in it for 2 years, basically.
Okay.
But actually, based on what she just said there, I'm not sure how that would be. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what, though? I think they actually moved it down to the equal. That's right. Yeah.
So at what point is that decision made, or what's the time frame for that? Yeah.
Every 2 years.
So is that in middle of the year, beginning of the?
Well, it's based on your, there's a couple of dates where enrollment is calculated through the state. It's October and November. October and November. I think for the IHSA it's a spring date.
Oh.
And they take the average of those 2 dates. And then, so that's how they do the category, the classification, based on the average of those 2 numbers. And they do that every 2 years. So you're in, you don't want to be bumping, changing every year, but once you're in for a couple years in a certain classification. And then there's always a handful of schools that will petition to go up or petition to go down for various reasons. So you see that too, but doing nothing just puts you in where your numbers are. It was actually my first year here that our numbers were in Division II. December students of the month. For junior high, Travis Hicks, and high school, Cheyenne Kensler in the category of creativity. Our winter sports participation, girls basketball is at 13, boys basketball is at 20. I think they're actually at 19 right now though. They lost one after I typed this up. The high school athletics, I don't know, did you guys get this email from ISBA regarding high school athletics and the schools right now have protection, immunity from suits. That was built into the last legislation, right? And basically that letter, if you read it, says that you forfeit that immunity. Am I right? Mm-hmm. If you disregard those orders. And according to Anderson, Julian, and Hall, they say like forfeiting that immunity could be pretty detrimental to a district.
The individual too.
And to the individual, yeah, and you're seeing that a lot right now, not in our area, but in southeast Idaho, there's some schools that are, you know, quite a few actually, that are disregarding the stage 2 orders. And so they're trying to navigate that right now. And it's creating some interesting situations. So we'll see how that goes.
So with the change with now letting a few parents into games, did that come at our conference level, or did that come at the state level?
School level.
School level, and
Yep.
because we were seeing some of the other schools do similar things.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 buses to Erie.
Yeah, so, no, it'll be okay though. And you know, who knows, we may see some more changes after Christmas break in the new year. Because I know that this sports stuff is taking up a lot of the governor's time right now. And so I don't know, we'll see. Questions about that? Okay. The Pixelot system, Dan talked about that. That's up and going. If anybody tuned in tonight, you saw that the score was not being broadcast up on the screen. Apparently that's an ongoing issue. And so we called and sent in a text and stuff to NFHS about that issue, but it sounds like that's a common issue around, and you've probably seen it in other schools too. The camera's up, everything's working. I don't know, we'll see how that goes.
And the sport was working the other day on the link.
Yeah, we did a test run, it worked great. Mr. LeBlanc, he called another AD and was asking him about it, and that AD said that they every week have to send a message to NFHS, and they do some work on their end, on the back end, and get it going. So it might be an ongoing issue.
I think a couple schools have had whiteboards, and if they get in that pitch, they just walk in front of the camera.
We were trying to do that. It wasn't working that great, but they're trying.
Yeah. Under the district, the Title IX training, so we have to have people trained in certain areas with the new Title IX laws. Nori and I are going through trainings, and I completed mine the other day, and she's got hers coming up in January. School district personnel are to be trained in different aspects of handling Title IX situations. The trainings have 3 different titles, basically: coordinator, investigator, and decision maker. I did the decision maker training, and Dory is doing, I think, the coordinator training. And then if we got into a situation where we needed investigators, we actually might call in some folks from other schools to help with that. We would definitely call the attorney, so that's one thing I learned from that training. The concerts, we talked about that already. Those are going to be posted online in the near future. I don't know if Dan mentioned this, but that's going to be on YouTube Live. Is that what it's called? YouTube Live? Yeah. The continuous improvement plan. The district leadership team is working on amending our goal area 3 in the continuous improvement plan. School climate and safety. I don't think I included these in the board packet. So I'll pass a few of these around and you can take a look at these. So in reviewing the continuous improvement plan, we thought that the school climate and safety goal area should have more of a student mental health focus, just based on current trends and what we're seeing, really. And so Mr. Eggers and I worked on amending this goal area to include a more of a mental health aspect, and include some concrete things that we can do as staff members to address, like student mental health, and just promoting well-being with students. And so you can see some of the areas there in red are additions. We didn't think it was necessarily, some of the things were just outdated, and some of the things were redundant that we took out. The stuff with the district levies, we crossed it out just because we thought maybe it didn't really belong in this goal area. It's not something that will go away, but we just didn't think it really kind of fit. And then we also agreed that we would have an an additional training for staff members in the spring using our Safe Schools module that we have access to related to student mental health. And those trainings, they're not too cumbersome. They're generally like somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. And so, and they can be pretty helpful too. So we're going to add that and do some different activities, and this will come back to you in probably September, I guess, you know, for review, because we submit these in October every year, updated versions. So, any thoughts on this? It's just kind of, you know, it's a working document. It's always changing. So. Okay. I think I sent something out in an email, but we have updated quarantine guidance from the CDC, and then it came from Idaho Public Health, that allows quarantines to be lessened to 10 days from 14 days. Now, they haven't necessarily changed anything. They haven't changed what they think about anything. Their guidance says that 14 days is the best scenario for quarantining as far as minimizing spread of something. Lowering it down to 10 days, they determined really only lessened the risk by maybe a percentage or two, and they thought that was worth it to help people get back to work, help kids back to school, things like that. And so they went from 14 down to 10. There is a component in there as far as going down to, for somebody that I want to say is exposed but wanted to get back sooner, maybe after 7 days, they could test negative, but they couldn't test negative until after 5 days. The test can take a couple days to get back, 3 to 4 really, and you're almost at 10 days already. So really the 10-day thing is the one that applies mostly to us. And that's the thing that we're seeing more anyway. We've had a lot more people that have been out of school due to quarantine from exposure than actual positive cases. You know, we've had maybe 4 or 5 total. Is that right? Students and staff. Yeah, so it's been a lot more people out due to exposure. So that lets people get back into school a little bit quicker.
So how is that being communicated to people now? As far as, we got 7 kids go out in quarantine on Monday. You know, how do we tell them, hey, you come back after 14 days or 10 days? What's the,
I talk personally with those families.
Good.
Yep. Every time we have, I talk to them and I call them and I find out what day, I find out the timeline.
Good.
And I always hope that whoever they talk to that told them about this stuff, the medical provider already gave them the dates. But if for some reason they didn't, then we just walk through it together. So in this case, when this got changed, we had people out on quarantine, a number, and I got to call them back and tell them, hey, your day just got moved up. Yeah, most of it, I would say probably 70, 80% of the time, we haven't really had to work through those dates with people. They've already been given those dates. You know. Other questions on that?
I have the other extreme. I have the college students that make sure they take 14 days. So, I'm like, CDC said you could be back. You're coming back.
Yeah.
I had 3 students out 2 weeks ago. They all took their 14 days.
That is another component to it,
Yeah.
And the last thing I have there is just a reminder that next month is the annual meeting, and so I listed off the things there that we'll work through. And I think that's all I have. Is there any questions?
All right, thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Trustees report. Any trustee, you got anything?
Yeah, I do. The other Monday, I was approached by a member of the community, and I tried to send them to Steve Adjourn. Unusual, they don't want to go to Steve Adjourn. So, but they were concerned. They went to the grade school with their child, or some kind of therapy class, and when they went in, some of the staff members were without masks. Everything had gone to through the night. And she was concerned about it because she was kind of hoping to send her child back to school. she changed her mind. And so, nothing to do today. I called Queen Perry and had a discussion with her about this. You know, with our guidelines that we have submitted and passed in December 2nd, all personnel are supposed to be wearing masks, and they can be terminated if they don't wear masks, because that is our rule. We either need to change it, or we need to enforce it. Because the teachers are reliable, but there's also violates their ethics. So, anyway, I think we really need to look at this, whether we want to keep it or whether we enforce it. And I understand there's probably teachers at high school who aren't wearing masks and staff.
Oh, yeah.
So we really need to do something if we need to shut it off the pot.
Yeah. I think, you know, at the high school, and the elementary, I'm not sure, maybe Dory can speak to that, but the high school, you know, we have a couple staff members who, you know, they'll probably quit before they put a mask on. And so trying to balance that, and so what I've done is I've asked, you know, I've asked them to try to social distance, because we do say, you know, if you're distancing, you don't have to have a mask on. Now, is that happening all the time? Probably not. But trying to balance that, because if we lose staff members, I mean, we're closing anyway. You know, I don't have a good answer to that. But trying to balance that, that's a challenge. But you're right, yeah.
Could we put a letter in your file, you know, give them a warning letter, do something to see that we're serious, or change the policy, one or the other.
I mean, I guess that's open for debate.
You know, where I used to work, we got 2 letters that were terminated. If they want to have a job, they'll follow the guidelines. One woman asked, I fired my own brother, I quit hesitate, firing an employee for the new job, to do what they told.
In general, is mask usage, is that getting easier as time goes on, or is it getting more contentious? Is it just?
Well, I mean, my perspective is that the first week it was contentious. This week it hasn't been bad. It hasn't been contentious. But like I said, I mean, you got a couple staff members that they'll leave before they put a mask on. And so trying to balance that, because I don't want anybody to leave. I mean, that's certainly a challenge. And so what I've told them is that my main concern is the kids, keeping the kids in school. And if they can distance, then so be it. But, yeah, I mean, that part's a challenge, I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What are we doing with the kid if they don't wear a mask?
Well, we would send them home. I mean, they honestly, I guess we haven't had that issue, but we would send them home, is what we would do.
For me, it's probably more, you know, I get both sides, you know, and I see that. Maybe just the leadership piece of it, you know, if we're asking the kids to do it, it just sets that example, but that's my perspective. I don't know.
Oh, well, that absolutely, I mean, that's definitely a thing. I mean, the kids are looking at the teachers and staff with that. And if they're asked to do that, you know, that creates it does.
I mean, that's, if you were to look at a reason for a conversation, it would be more so than the political piece of wearing the mask, it would be,
Absolutely.
you know, that's not setting the leadership, I guess, that maybe we would expect our staff to have.
Right.
So, but I get it, you know, it's interesting. I had to take 5 kids to practice one night, and I asked you guys think? And they all were like, you know what, if it means we can go to school and play sports, we'll wear masks, we don't care. You know, like the kids seem to be pretty adaptable. I don't know, at least the ones I've been talking to, so.
When the teachers are teaching them, they stay them out. They have to protect the barrier supposedly, say 6 feet apart, are they doing that
For the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's moments where it's not happening. But, you know, I mean, that's been a request. Just keep distancing.
Well, my whole point is without the rule, we need to cover everybody,
Or change the rule, right?
change the rule.
Which I think we probably need to revisit that at some point.
Well, I think January 20th is going to be family.
I haven't heard.
I don't know.
So we really need to, you know, if it's an issue, we really need to do something.
And then I have one more trustee report. The University of Idaho came today, and I happened to be working from home today, so they had me join them, but they got to just talk to the whole school, junior high and high school kids, about just going on to further their education, and talked just a lot about just college in general, but just furthering on. They had military there talking about ROTC, kind of did a little bit of a session of the benefits of going on to further their education. And as we were leaving, they shared with me that we just had a really nice group of kids, really interactive. They asked a lot of questions at the end. They sat and listened. They did a really good job, so I was proud of them. And hopefully, you know, if a couple heard a message in there, and you know, we have a lot of great kids, and I know, at least in our community, sometimes financial is maybe one of the barriers that we see kids not going on. And they talked a lot about that, and so hopefully it maybe sparked some interest in a few kids that maybe think they can't, but maybe will reconsider going on to additional schooling when they're done here. So, and they talked about associate's degrees and even in trade schools, and it wasn't just necessarily four-year colleges. Just, I think the main thing is just going on. So, but I appreciate the school being willing to let them come in. The president's really wanting to kind of get back on that track, and a lot of schools are not interested in having outsiders coming in and talking to the kids. So I appreciate that opportunity, and they wanted me to share how nice our kids were.
Was this specific to U of I?
So it was a U of I group that did it.
Nice.
And they talk, you know, University of Idaho obviously gets talked about because that's the numbers and the figures and the information that they know. But the message really is just, the name of the program is Enroll Idaho. And it's just really trying to focus on making sure kids think they can get more than a high school degree. And so they talk a lot about the financial benefit of having a degree, and Tommy was a good sport, and they do some kind of numbers to show the financial benefit. So. But the kids, I was surprised how many hands went up, so.
And one of those t-shirts.
Yep. And I ordered the t-shirts, I have to order more for them, but yeah, they were a good group. So I wanted to say thank you, and make sure you let the kids know that they represented Kendrick well.
Yeah, it was good.
All right. Okay. Next one, I guess, would be the discussion about the football Fieldhouse project. Yesterday we met and discussed it. Myself, Mark, Steve, Morgan, and Joe met. I guess that we came up with, go ahead and you got to say Mark's, whatever. But we kind of came up with, on our building, there's 3 main areas, I guess, we're looking at and we make sure we got to do, and that's the concession stands, restrooms, and a home locker room, as well as storage. If numbers come in all right, we kind of get an area where we could just put a room, maybe just for the guest locker room, we don't have to have lockers or anything like that in it. We can also use it kind of like a multi-purpose room or something like that. Our main goal right now is to try to get the main part of the building up. We're looking at getting numbers for CUM blocks. So it'll be a brick or block building, I guess you could say, or whatever. They're good, sound building. No, not much maintenance on them. They can take some use from kids throwing balls against them or whatever. I'll have like 10-foot walls, or 10-foot ceilings, I guess. Wood truss system with a metal roof. I guess that's kind of the gist of it, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about around town that a little bit was, you know, if the visiting locker room gets dropped off the priority list, try to lay the building out such that that can be added down the road. Be able to do a modular addition and just add that. What happens is all those other floor areas get a lot of use. They get used on they're either used by the general public or they get used during practices and games. The visiting locker room gets used 4 times a year, and it happens to be a very large square footage, so it represents 25% of the square footage. Kind of a low bang of buck. So if the costs come in high, that's the obvious one to draw. Let's set ourselves up to that later.
And we're kind of looking at it, you know, have somebody build the exterior of the outside walls, and then we could even look at doing in-house the inner portions of the walls ourselves, save some money, have all the plumbing roughed in, stuff like that. As far as like a concession stand, we'd like to have some kind of a flat top grill or something with an overhead. You'd have to have an overhead fan in there, of course. We can always add that later, but we at least have it plumbed and stuff for it if it costs us excessive at this time or whatever. So I guess to the point where we want to make sure we have a concession stand before we can at least use the facilities, but if we got to cook outside that, we can do that for the time being. Make sure the bathrooms are operational and the home locker room. And kind of about the size of the home locker room, they're figured probably 30 athletes, kind of figured to be the number, kind of base it off of. Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Well, thanks for your work on it. I think it's exciting. It'll be fun to have something that's real visual to the community and.
Yeah.
Chad,
Yeah.
question. So were you thinking about the same square footage or a smaller square footage than last meeting?
Well, right now, I guess we just need to get a kind of a base price. And if we need to drop it, I'm thinking, you know, I think the last one was like 40 by 90, I think, is that what it was? Mm-hmm. So maybe it might be something like 40 by 70 or something like that, drop 20 feet off the end or something. But, you know, I don't know what that 20 feet would, how much that 20 feet would add for sure, I guess, but that's what we're kind of in the process of getting some more hardcore numbers, I guess.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we'll have to see the number. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be surprising, Don, if the square footage had to be dropped to get the price down. I don't think that would be shocking. What do you think? Especially if we went with those blocks.
And the locker rooms across the street are still available for visiting team. I mean, it's
Correct.
not like there's.
Yeah, that's another thought. We thought, you know, if a visiting team did need a locker room, they could use the boys' locker room now for that night and keep them out of the girls' locker room altogether. Because, you know, it happens, but it's usually, we have problems. That's usually what happens when the boys go to the girls' locker room. But with that, this way, you know, we just keep our kids out of our own home locker room, the mess, everything, all year, cleared football season and everything. So everything will just be out there Got the football field.
We'll be able to move all those big
Sheds,
buildings.
yeah.
And Morgan brought up the fact that there's a handful of teams that don't use the locker rooms.
Yeah, they just sit in
come
the
suited
end zone.
up.
Yeah. Don't sit up, they just stay in the end zone, not out.
Well, and that space might end up being good for even some activities that the school does, if you guys end up doing food out there for something, or,
Yeah.
So, might expand some options for assemblies and things outside even, so.
Yeah. So, that's kind of where we're at right now. So the next agenda item, I guess, would be the COVID-19 reopening plan or current updates.
So right now, let's see, this week we have not had anybody report either exposure or a positive case. We currently have one student out that is positive and 2 students out that were exposed. So we have 3 total out right now, and that's district-wide that are out. So we got a whole bunch of kids back last week, I think it was. So we've had a pretty good couple weeks, really. We had a couple tough weeks there, and the last 5, 6, 7 days has been quite a bit better. So that's where we stand right now with numbers.
Yeah. Next agenda item, action item, is approve the purchase of library furniture. Steve, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, this is the furniture that I showed last month, and it would be basically 3 sitting stations in the library with 4 chairs each and a book table. I said last week, I guess, or last month. I feel that, with school furniture, there's sticker shock, it's pretty spendy, but it's got to hold up, This would be taken out of the secondary supplies account. We budgeted $22,000 in there, and we've got $17,400 remaining. We generally don't use all of that, so we're still doing pretty good in that account right now.
Are the chairs you want to buy, are they cloth, or are they?
No, they're like a
vinyl?
Yeah,
like
you can wipe them down.
You wipe them down.
How are they pretty heavy? How do you worry about the janitorial staff moving them if they're that heavy?
They would probably have trouble moving them. They might be able to slide them, but I think what we would basically have them set up in here, and that they would be set up. There wouldn't be a lot of moving them, probably. But they're definitely slidable.
I was just thinking, there's cheaper, smaller chairs out there if they were too heavy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
And you can't wipe them down, so it makes a big difference.
yeah.
I think the kids will use them a lot. We see it, at least on campus, they really use those spaces for studying and meetings.
Yeah, I like the idea of this.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good thing. We've got more people using the library right now than we have for a long time, actually.
I'll make that motion to approve the purchase of the library furniture.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the library furniture. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next action item is to approve the supplemental levy election resolution and amount. Steve, want to talk about that?
Yeah, I put in the resolution. The resolution that you have in there is just a draft resolution. So what we need to do is determine the dollar amount, and then if we want to run it for 1 versus 2 years. The draft that I put in there, I just kept the same numbers as before. And I think I put 2 years in there because I think that was discussed maybe last month. Looking at levy rates. I'm going to pass this around. This is a draft. This is a draft of the brochure that we used last year. I updated this brochure with numbers that match this draft resolution. So I put on there 2 years. I just kept the same number for now. And then the levy rate, it looks like our market value in the district in the 3 counties went up by about 16 million. So the levy rate is $4.85 there per thousand based on that number. So Lynn, I don't know what's her name, Lynn Smith sent that to me last Friday. And she had the market value for Latah, 123 million, Nez Perce 35, and Clearwater about 8.
Maybe if you do.
I mentioned that too, I know.
You know, the bar was
I was going to blow it up.
You're the easiest one to track down.
Do you have a home number?
Yeah.
The email still needs to be changed too, just FYI. Down below your name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? That's our website.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was telling them the ending, or the email.
So I think we definitely need to go 2 years, my personal opinion. Everybody else feels about it.
I agree.
I agree that the computers would be better.
And then I guess we're at the amount, we're at 810,000. Definitely, we don't need to raise it. I think we can just keep it where we're at, maybe. For now.
I think when you look at the other schools, I don't think you want to lower it. I think it needs to be at that amount. Hmm? I agree with you. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we do a levy amount for 810,000 and we run it for 2 years. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. The next action item is consider changes to classified pay starting schedule. Let Steve talk about that.
So the proposal here is to move the head cook position from the $10.50 an hour box to the $12 an hour box on the starting pay schedule. This is it's not the food service supervisor, it's the head cook at the other building. They still have a lot of bookwork, paperwork and stuff like that. That's a position we've struggled to fill over the last few years. We anticipate the possibility of having to try to fill it again in the near future. And so we're hoping that maybe will help a little bit.
Every school's, you know what their head cook makes?
It's a little bit more than that, I believe.
More than 12.
I believe so.
So I got a question. So you put the starting at 12, and she's not making 12 on what she is now making 12.
Yeah.
If the last face mask with that.
I make the motion that we change the 12 an hour.
I'll second it. So So it's been moved and seconded that we move the starting classified pay up to the head cook from $10.50 to $12 lot. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Something we might look at next year when you guys are negotiating is what the other districts are doing for these people. See if we can maybe kick them a little extra money.
Yeah, we did look at it, this year or the last year?
I think we made the big changes 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit.
But we did talk about some certain positions this last year.
Some stuff doesn't kind of match where it should be with other districts.
It should be something I looked at every couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe a working meeting this summer to evaluate it.
Yeah.
Okay, the next agenda item is board member input for future agenda items. Seeing none, I guess, the next would be to have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
It's been moved to be second, we adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.